Let's talk about something most of us have in our fridge: processed meat. You know, the ham in your sandwich, the salami on your pizza. It's just, well, food. But what if the journey that salami took to get to your plate was actually a massive chemical transformation? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the hidden science of what we're really eating. This quote from our source material absolutely nails it. We're not just eating simple ingredients anymore. We're eating a complex, repeatedly processed food matrix. That's a fancy way of saying it's an engineered product designed for super consistent flavor, for safety, and for a shelf life that, let's be honest, is anything but natural. And that brings us to the big question, doesn't it? When you get past all the marketing and the nice packaging, what are we actually putting into our bodies day after day? Let's start this whole investigation right where we all do, with the label. Okay, first up, the label. This is our main window into what we're buying. And of course, it's designed to make us feel pretty good about our choices. But as we're about to see, there's often a huge gap between what we think we're getting and the industrial reality. You know the ones. You see labels like organic or reduced fat, maybe even hands salted, and your brain just automatically goes, yep, this is the healthier one. This one's better, it's safer. But is it really? So check this out, because this table really shows that gap in action. See organic over there? The reality is it still relies on the exact same fundamental nitrite and smoke chemistry as the regular stuff. And reduced fat? To make up for the missing fat, the processing often has to be even more intense to get that taste and texture right. The key thing here is that a friendly-sounding label doesn't actually change the core industrial process one bit. So if the label isn't telling us the whole story, what is actually happening inside the factory? All right, let's go behind the scenes and look at how raw meat gets turned into the products we see on the shelf. Okay, for a typical cooked sausage, you start by grinding the meat into this really fine paste, an emulsion. But then comes the most critical step: mixing in the additives. We're talking about things like E250 sodium nitrite, that's for the color and preservation, and E451 phosphates. Think of phosphates as a kind of molecular glue. They bind the water and protein together to give you that juicy, bouncy texture you expect. Then it's cooked, and finally it's sealed up with special gases to make it last for a really long time. And this brings us to what might be the single most important concept we're going to cover. It's this idea that the additives you see listed on the ingredients list go through this profound chemical change during processing. So what you end up eating isn't actually what was added in the first place. Here it is, laid out plain and simple. What's on the label is the before, but what your body gets is the after. For instance, that sodium nitrite on the label, it transforms into what are called reactive nitrosating species. That sodium ascorbate, which is basically a form of vitamin C, it gets completely used up in the process, breaking down into tiny fragments. And those complex phosphates, they become simple, free phosphate ions, which our bodies absorb in a totally different way. It is a complete chemical makeover. So how does this all happen? Well, the main chemical reaction doing all the work is called nitrization. This is what happens when the nitrite that was added reacts with other molecules already in the meat. The heat from cooking or even just the acidic environment in your own stomach can trigger it. And the result is, poof, you get entirely new compounds that were never on the ingredient list to begin with. This slide is a great summary of this whole transformation idea. You can see it's not just one thing. The nitrate becomes nitrosilheme. That's what gives cured meat its classic pinkish color. The smoke does more than add flavor. It introduces aldehydes that create new protein structures. Even the bacteria used for fermentation get turned into what's called immune-active debris. In every single case, what you're eating is chemically different from what went in. Okay, so what's the big deal with all these new molecules showing up in our food? Well, it's not about some big, dramatic, one-time event. It's about a small, constant daily cost that your body has to pay. Our sources call it a biological tax. And this tax gets paid over time. It's a cascade. Within minutes of eating, that reactive chemistry is already kicking off in your stomach. A few hours later, your liver and intestines are working hard to process these compounds they don't quite recognize. You keep eating it for days, and it can start to shift your gut bacteria. And over weeks, months, and years, that daily effort can add up to systemic strain. And you can see right here which systems are really on the front lines paying this daily tax. Your gut has to deal with constant immune signaling. Your liver is saddled with a heavier detoxification load. And your kidneys are getting stressed from processing all that sodium and those free phosphates. They're all working overtime. This idea of a biological tax is really the perfect way to think about it. Every day, your body is spending precious energy and resources just managing these processed inputs. And that's energy that could have been used for other things, like repairing tissues or regenerating cells or keeping your immune system balanced. Instead, it's constantly being diverted to play defense. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But hold on, aren't these products regulated? Aren't they considered safe? And you're absolutely right, they are. But the rules don't always tell the whole story. And that gets us to the real health cost. You see, safety rules usually look at one additive at a time, in isolation. But in the real world, it's the cocktail effect that matters. It's the nitrates, plus the heat, plus the amines that are naturally in the meat that creates a risk pathway. It's the added phosphates, plus any existing kidney issues that create strain. Those preservatives don't just sit there, they actively reshape the ecosystem of your gut. It's these interactions where the hidden risks are. And this slide just hits the nail on the head. This is the fundamental disconnect. On one side, you have the regulatory logic, the acceptable daily intake, which is often based on studying one single substance, assuming no transformation and averaging it out. But on the other side, you have biological reality. And in reality, our bodies experience a multi-system interaction with a whole cocktail of brand new molecules. And that daily repetitive exposure is what really, truly matters. And so we're left with this one crucial final thought. Our regulations are designed to control what is added to our food, but our biology, our bodies, have to deal with what is formed during all that processing and digestion. So the next time you're in the grocery store aisle, just think about that for a second. Are we even measuring the right thing? Thanks for joining me for this